Hey there. Okay, got another one. This one's going to be the next one in maybe a series of minidisc stuff. Second minidisc vid I've done. The last time I was basically just giving a general info on the minidisc and why I liked it. This time I'm going to be focusing on basically how Sony messed up and what they could have done or what they could do to keep the minidisc format alive. It's just my own little opinion. I'm no expert on marketing or anything like that, but it's just from my own standpoint of using the medium, what they could do to keep it going. I'm sure you guys would have guessed this is probably my favorite form of audio media around. And I would like to see it go on for as long as possible, because it's a good format. For those of you who haven't seen my other vid or don't know what a minidisc is, well, check out the other vid. I talk about it there. But really quick recap. This is see this? This is a minidisc. This is, well, one of the many types they make. This is a minidisc. Standard looking one. This one's made by Memorex. They usually play in players like these. Like, this is a high MD recorder slash player. This one's more of a net MD one. See, I got a bunch of them. Here's that one's like more of an entry level type of thing. Need to know more info? Google it. Wikipedia's got information on it, or better yet, go to minidisc.org. That's a great place to go for the info. Alright, enough of that. Sony botched this format big time. Big time. Many people blame the iPod for its, basic demise in the US and its decline in the European market and its slow but steady decline in the Japanese market. The iPod just helped, but it wasn't the main factor. The main factor is Sony effed up the marketing. I'm trying not to curse here. They messed up the marketing big time. I think the problem was they really didn't know what the hell to do with it. When it first came out, it was supposed to be some type of, I guess, replacement for cassettes. It was supposed to be a combination of cassettes and CDs. And it was going to do fine and dandy, because people were beginning to warm up to it, but then the MP3 market came out. When MP3s came out, and they just completely revolutionized how people listen to music. And Sony didn't really know how to catch up with that. They tried to compete with MP3 players by introducing digital recording straight from your computer to the disc, because before you had to do it analog. But by that time, the software you had to use was incredibly cumbersome. This is the first thing Sony did that effed up. They came up with software that sucked, and the software limited how many copies you could make of the discs themselves and how many files you could put on there. Who the hell wants that? We had the freedom of MP3s and MP3 players to put as many damn things that we wanted, and then you're going to restrict us just because you happen to be a music company? Sony should have read the writing on the wall. Once the MP3 market came out, you should have forgotten about this whole copyright crap that you were sweating over. You're going to lose money on that anyway. What you should have done was come up with something that people wanted. And you had a perfect medium right here to give people what they wanted, and you ruined it. Rage subsiding. Anyway, they botched it by coming up with copyright restrictions and copy restrictions and software that sucked. I mean, it sucked. Sonic Stage is the interface software that's used between the recorder and the computer, and it crashed often. It crashed Windows a couple of times. Well, not like it takes much to crash Windows, but it crashed Windows often. By the time they finally eased the whole copy restrictions, where you can make unlimited copies and all that, no one cared. It was software version 3.1 and no one cared. The next thing they did to botch everything was when they came up with a new format and didn't really advertise it well. So even though it was a great format, it sucked. No one cared again. So they ruined that. Alright, had something to do. Sorry for the cut. Anyways, what was I up to? Yeah, another thing that Sony did that completely botched the whole thing was they just kept missing really good opportunities to really push the format. Right now, they're only catering to the recording crowd. They're not catering much to the consumer crowd anymore because, well, the consumer crowd doesn't care, at least in the US. But they could have done a few things to get the consumer crowd on board. I mean, us that record music, we know how good it is. I mean, in my opinion, this is better than that. But the consumer market doesn't care, and they don't seem to realize what they're missing out on. What Sony could have done was, I mean, hell, they could have done a commercial, like, imagine a commercial where you got an iPod dude, and he's listening to some music, and he really is like, man, that's really good, I can't wait to go home and get it. and then there's a mini disc guy right next to him, and all he does is take out like a stereo cord, like I guess this one right here. So many people passing behind me. A stereo cord like this right here, and then just hooks it up to the radio, whatever, records right there, and then leaves. You know, that would have been hell. That's just one idea right off the bat for a commercial. You know, or like he's able, like the iPod guys, like I got this music. So you got what music? Let me share that with you. Let me pull my stereo cord here. Let me hit the record button. You could do that with your player? Hell yeah, I can do that. You can't do that with yours? That could have been a commercial right there. Hell, Sony, if you listen to this, I'll work for pennies. I'll give you ideas for commercials. Anyway, real quick, one other botched opportunity, the PSP. When the PSP was first coming out, there was a rumor that it was going to use mini discs. I thought that was, wow, that's really cool. That's a really great way to reintroduce the format, you know, and, you know, at the same time introduce a really cool way of making games, kill two birds with one stone. But then other people say, nah, remember, mini discs at the most can only hold 1 gigabyte worth of space, especially with the high MD format. It's only 1 gigabyte worth of space. You know, games are going to need more than just 1 gigabyte. Well, not really, but I can see what they're talking about, especially with the type of games they want to put on there. You need a lot of space. So yeah, they came up with the UMD, the Universal Media Disc or something like that. I forgot what the acronym meant, but it was something along those lines. I was like, okay, that makes sense, but it would still be cool if the PSP was not only to play UMDs, but mini discs as well. Think about it. Unlike the UMD, mini discs are recordable over and over again. Supposedly you can record over these things up to 1 million times. So if you introduce this format to the PSP user, especially since the PSP happens to be it's a breeding ground for a lot of homebrew programs, think of what this could open up. You've got a format that and it's cheap too. Like a standard disc like this, on average, like $1.20 a pop, $1.50 a pop. I usually get them cheaper than that online when I buy them in bulk. So you've got this medium that's cheap as hell. Even the gigabyte discs, if you look around, you can get them as low as $4.50 a pop. And you can store your programs on that, your homebrew games on that, your photos, because people use them. I've seen people use PSP to store their photographs, their art projects, their music, what have you. You can store it on these things. And you don't got to worry about your flash drives, because I've heard a lot of people saying how their flash drives sometimes, you know, they get accidentally erased. You know, if they drop them by mistake, oh my God, they just lost another $50, $20 if you buy the 1 gigabyte ones. These are cheap as hell, but they're durable. And you can store a whole lot of stuff. And I'm pretty sure if they thought about it, they might have found a way. I don't know how they would make this work, but they might have found a way to maybe use these things. I mean, you'd probably have to swap out the disc and put this disc in there and save it. Maybe it was too much of a headache, but it could have worked. Maybe you could store game data on this or some other data on that and then use your PSP as an interface. I don't know, just throwing ideas out there. But even if they just simply use the PSP as just a regular music player, which is what they wanted the PSP to be. They wanted it to be this universal, portable media thing that played video games and you can watch movies with it and you can listen to music with it. Well, if you can listen to music with it, why not let it play mini discs? And then you can use it as your default mini disc player / media thingy that Sony wanted to do, which they always seem to keep trying to do and never seem to get it right, this whole universal media player. But they could have done that, you know, besides the whole movie thing, which never panned out, and the video game thing, which is sort of above life support, but it's not doing too well. But, I mean, still, you would have introduced this thing to a whole new market. Consumers would have jumped on it because it's cheap as hell. They can store all this stuff on this. It's cheaper than the flash drives, but yet it was still, even though they're not buying those Sony flash drives, Sony could still make money because Sony sells these things too. So either way, they're recouping their costs. And, I mean, there's so many different ways, but that's just one way they could have done to keep this thing alive. Another missed opportunity of why they botched it. But it's something that even now, if they redesign the PSP, they could do. And I don't want to hear the argument that, oh, well, they're not going to redesign it. They're not going to throw money at a dead market. They're still throwing the money at the PSP, aren't they? And redesigning it in different colors and making it shorter or smaller or whatever. They redesigned the PlayStation 1 how many freaking times? They redesigned the PlayStation 2. And hell, they're still throwing money at the PSP. And last time I checked, they lost millions on that. I think, hell, somebody told me billions, but I think that's too much. I need to look it up online. But they lost money on that, and they're still trying to keep that thing on life support. So why not put it on something that's lasted for 15 plus years and many of us are still using? I mean, Sony, look, if by the off chance you're watching this or somebody who's close to Sony is watching this, do yourself a favor. Go to minidisc.org. and see just how popular this format still is. There's a die-hard contingent, even in the US, people who are using this format. You could still make money off of this if you do the right moves. I ranted too much. It's gone on longer than I wanted. But that's just me tossing ideas off. Any minidisc fans out there, or anybody who's just simply interested in the argument, just tell me what you think. And bye. See you.